Working Class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here. Today on the big program, lots to get to, lots to talk about. Gas prices have gone down every day for the last 27 days. And what hath the F channel said about that? What response have we gotten from the Fox frenzy? What are the mom and pops going to do? Gas prices are falling too fast. It's bad. Joe Biden is killing mom and pop. They're killing the struggling small gas station owner. Oh, that Joe Biden. Oh, he's killing mom and pop. It's falling too fast. It's killing them too fast. Too fast. The decline is historically faster than usual. Those independent mom and pop gas stations, which are littering the countrysides, evidently. They're everywhere. I'm sure you've seen maybe one of them still somewhere, possibly out there, wherever, that the chains haven't gobbled up already. Yeah, there could be one maybe with the welfare queen and the small family farmer who, with the estate tax, there could be, but that's what the F channel's all upset about. Gas prices falling too bad. Now remember, just the other day, gas prices too high. Oh, Joe Biden did that. Yeah. And it's one of those things where you go, does anyone pay attention to what they're being spoon-fed over there at the Outrage channel? Does anyone bother to understand that it's constant outrage candy just to make them angry about something every day? Not thinking about the consistency or if it makes sense, just to be angry? Anybody? Anything? Evidently not, because I thought we wanted lower gas prices. I thought that was the goal. I thought the goal was, hey, Joe Biden, do something. Gas prices are too high. Do something. And what'd he do? He went after, he lowered the gas taxes. He went after those CEOs and said, hey, I'm looking at you. Do something. We're paying attention. He started to come down. Now, evidently, too fast. Too fast for Fox. Too fast for the F channel. Wow. But it's the world we live in. It is the world we live in. And it makes me go, why anyone watches that garbage? Beyond me. Completely beyond me. And look, if you want to have a conversation about struggling mom and pop gas stations, maybe that was a conversation to have, 20 years ago. Because they've been put out of business a long time by the big multinational corporate interests. Consolidation in this country, not new. Massive consolidation, not new. I remember maybe a handful of independents, not anymore. So this made up thing to get you, oh, that poor mom and pop, don't exist. Just to get you mad. And who? At Joe Biden. It's all Joe Biden's fault. Joe Biden's lowering your gas prices. How dare he? What was the other story today? Again, it's all about Joe Biden. If I'm Joe Biden, I go, I'm getting free rent. I'm living between their ears. Because, evidently, and this is the Democrats, too. You know the problem with Democrats? Democrats, evidently. Because some polling done by the good folks at the New York Times, them and Siena College, and they asked Democrats, they said, hey, Bob, who do you want to run in 2024? Now, a little early, kind of early for me to go, hey, who we want in 2024. I think we got to get through 2022 first. But according to their polling, 64% of Democrats say anybody but Joe Biden. We want somebody else. Because, we're being told by the F channel that Joe Biden's bad. We're being told by the mainstream media that, Joe Biden's bad. And we don't feel good about Joe. Only 13% of voters think that the country's on the right track because we keep being told how bad things are. We keep being told inflation's killing us. And yeah, corporate greed is something that is really something that needs to be dealt with. So the New York Times had this story, big story, headline. Most Democrats don't want Biden in 24. New poll shows. And they go and they find people like this 38-year-old woman from Michigan, preschool teacher. I'm so tired of all the old people running our country. I don't want someone knocking on death's door. Ageist. Yeah, let's go that route. Good. I want younger blood, she says. Don't mention the fact that Biden had a plan to help preschool families get, preschool for their kids. Don't mention the fact that, there was a plan to help families, with child care. Don't mention any of that stuff. Don't cloud her mind with facts. Keep feeding her outrage candy because he's an old guy in the White House. He doesn't understand me. Don't cloud her mind with, hey, that there were actually plans that had we had, maybe two more Democratic senators and outside of Manchin and Sinema, could have gotten something done. Never mind how the system actually works, because they went through and they go, what are the important issues? Well, jobs in the economy. Jobs in the economy? What do you mean jobs in the economy? Jobs in the economy? Well, unemployment's 3.6%. During Biden's term, they've added almost 8 million jobs, the most virtually ever. GDP growth 5.7%. Wages are up 5.6%. If you care about the deficit, it's down. You go, things are going in the right direction. Oh, but wages aren't keeping up. Yeah, you know why wages aren't keeping up? Pretty simple. We don't have the bargaining power. We need stronger unions. And what's Joe Biden want to do about that? Wants to strengthen unions. But he hasn't done anything. Yes, because Senate, the place where good ideas go to die. Because, we don't do old guy in the wall. Didn't get enough of what we want. 41-year-old trucker, they quote from Ocean Township, New Jersey. He's not aggressive enough to get his agenda done. Wow, how aggressive. Do you want him to go to the Senate and beat up Joe Manchin? I do, but it's not going to help. This guy from New Jersey goes, well, Trump wasn't afraid to get his people in line. What do you mean, to tear things down? What exactly do you mean? What did Trump do during his tenure? He gave lots of money to rich people, did that, mission accomplished, check. But the Republican Party was going to do that anyway. Didn't help average everyday working people. And you go, but Rick, but he was tough. He caused a lot of chaos. Yeah, he caused a lot of chaos. He got impeached twice. Had a bunch of people, defecate on the floor of our Capitol. If that's what you think is moving the country forward, we got different definitions. They also quote a 69-year-old registered Republican from Schenectady, New York, a retired machinist. And I would bet a retired union guy with a union pension who had good health care and job security and safe working conditions and all those things his entire life benefited from all of those Democratic policies, but yet he's going to vote for the Republicans because he pulled himself up by the bootstraps. And he voted for Biden because, he gave him a chance, but he regrets it now. And in 24, he's going back. He said, I thought he was going to do something for this country. Now he's doing nothing. Nothing? He's been the most pro-union president of my lifetime, pushing very, very pro-union ideas and policies, talking about, hey, how do we raise wages? How do we make better working conditions? How do we make better opportunities? How do we make things better for our children? Understand, the Republican Party hates working people, and their policies have shown that. All of the things that have happened over the last 40 years have been because we have followed conservative Republican policies down a rat hole. Our standard of living is much worse off today because of supply-side voodoo Reaganomics and the assault on organized labor. That is reality. Our grandparents' generation made much higher wages. The job that I do, the job I did 30 years ago, that I still do today, I made a better standard of living 30 years ago than I do today, with better benefits and better conditions. And why is that? Well, because back then it was 85% unionized. Today it's about 10%. And how did that happen? That happened because, well, conservative ideology, supply side voodoo Reaganomics, neoliberal Democrats going, yes, we can work with conservatives. We can come together with deregulation. We don't need those unions. We're better than that now. Going to vote for the Republicans, he says. And Mitch McConnell says, hey, if those Democrats do anything I don't like, we're going to paralyze the Senate. Going to do nothing. That was his comment here the other day. If you do anything on the climate, you do anything to save the future of this planet, we're going to shut things down. We're going to shut it down. Now, he's in the minority, but he knows he's got Manchin and Sinema. And he knows that the vast majority of Democratic voters haven't figured out how the system evidently works. And this is why I blame Democrats. Because in this moment where job numbers are pretty good, we're heading, supposedly, they keep telling us, recession's coming, yet the job numbers keep going up. They keep telling us all these horrible things, but it's almost like they want the bad things to happen. Because again, they hate working people. They want chaos. They want us divided. They want us pitted against each other. And they want us going after Biden. Now, my other favorite thing, Biden shouldn't run again. Biden was never going to run again. He was always going to be a one-term president. He's 79 years old. I don't think he had it in his head he was going to run for 2 terms. Now, you don't come out on day one and go, yeah, I'm running for 1 term. Because who wants to be a lame duck president on the day you take office? It's pretty simple. But get your heads out of the behind. Fight, stand up, speak out, and enough of this. Enough of this. Stop it. Stop it. Love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com, or give us a call, 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Break right back after this. If you miss any of the show, you want to hear that again because it's important. Podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, you'll find ours. Never miss a moment. Subscribe, share, like, comment, all of that stuff. Really appreciate it. Quick break right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Cover the talk.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania, to the auto factories of Michigan, to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, President of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
For a long period of time, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do.
I started my career in the operations field, just kept taking on new projects.
There's so many different opportunities that you can pursue in clean energy. But it was really great to know that there was a company so close to home in the renewable energy business.
Investment in the area would be huge. It would be great to be able to expand the area and give people jobs.
Having these opportunities for the younger generation would mean a lot for our community.
Over 70 years of experience in heart and aviation, the members of the Association of Flight Attendants know the realities of the aircraft cabin better than anyone. We don't just serve drinks, we save lives. We don't just negotiate contracts, we move major policy issues like the smoking ban, no knives on planes, clean water, and safe food on board. The air we breathe matters, and we stop the spraying of poisonous pesticides. Training, rest, and no calls on planes matter as we fight fires, de-escalate conflict, revive, and breathe life. We safely usher passengers to the big business deal, the family vacation, the times of celebration, times of grief, and times of battle. We are aviation's first responders, and we are the last line of defense in aviation security. We are the first impression and the smile of aviation, connecting the people of our nations. Fly with us, partner with us, make progress with us. The Association of Flight Attendants. Stronger together, better together.
All right, now you're just like Daddy, huh?
They'll probably never know about his thousands of hours of on-the-job training,
There you go, Daddy.
or that he spent as much time in the classroom as someone with a master's degree. You and I know he's one of the experts when it comes to electricity. Part of the team committed to doing the job right. They call him Dad. You call him the electrician right down the street. IBEW, the power professionals in your neighborhood.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
File this under you can never have enough worker power. This is a great story coming out of the New York, New Jersey area where you had community and labor groups that came together because Amazon wanted to build this this hub at the Newark airport. And it was a big deal. The reporting was, it's going to be 1,000 jobs, and these are going to be good jobs. These are going to be those $15 an hour jobs. Now, never mind the fact that the union jobs that had been there before, were $30 an hour jobs. Never mind that. But hey, these are the $15 kind. But you had activists in the environment, activists in labor. You had people community groups come together and go, what kind of jobs are these going to be? Are they going to be the kind of jobs that are going to sustain families? Are they going to be good for the communities? All this stuff. And when Amazon refused to comply with simple, basic labor and environmental standards, Amazon just said, well, we're out. So no new East Coast air hub at the Newark airport. And look, that's a place that if they really wanted to be there, they would abide by the local requirements. And this is a lesson. This is important. This is the kind of stuff where working people need to come together and go, hey, we do have some power when we stand together. We do have the ability to stand up and say, it's our community. This is where we live. We want to make sure that these jobs are good jobs. They're safe jobs. They're the kind of jobs that we want in our community. Because we know, and we've talked about this before, Amazon does not have the greatest record for worker safety. In fact, they're pretty bad. But you had these community organizers, these people going out knocking thousands of doors, direct action, people coming out, getting in the streets. They did a petition drive. They got thousands of community signatures on these drives. They got elected officials involved. This is what has to happen. It is this kind of grassroots, bottom-up kind of organizing that has to happen, not just in New York, New Jersey. This has to happen in every community. This is what worker power looks like. And this is outside of the political sphere. This isn't right or left. And I keep talking about this. This isn't right, left. This isn't Republican, Democrat. This isn't conservative, liberal. This is top down. This is big money versus the rest of us. This is taking on the powerful special interests and ensuring that they that they do the right thing. Look, I want Amazon to be able to build their facility. I do. I want them to be able to run their business. I want them to do their thing. But those jobs have got to be beneficial to the community. They've got to do it in a way that's responsible, that's not going to destroy others. And this is part of that. And look, this is happening in a bunch of other places. Back in 2019, a coalition of workers and community members, they tried to get Amazon to comply with similar standards for a West Coast hub out, and I think it was San Bernardino, if I'm not mistaken. There, same thing. You had, people knocking thousands of doors. Turned out, hundreds of people. It's this kind of community power that needs to happen. And again, ultimately, with little notice or fanfare. What happened out there? Local elected officials approved Amazon's facility. The reason that what happened in New York, in New Jersey here, what happened is so big, is they were able to stop it. They were able to ensure that their demands were being addressed. And this is the kind of thing that I think is really important. The kind of worker power that we need to have. And it's outside of the political world. This is where we can come back together. And this is what I've been saying for a long time. Outside of the divisive political stuff, outside of the stuff that tears us apart, this can unite us. This can bring us back together. Now, like I said, I want them to be able to do their thing. I want them to be able to build. I want them to be able to service customers and all that stuff, and make money, as long as they do it in a way that's going to ensure that the communities affected are made whole. That those are good jobs, that they're safe jobs, that they're lifting up the community and not tearing it down. And also that we're not subsidizing the you-know-what out of it. This is one of those moments where you just go, I want to know how much money was going into this. How much money was going to, taxpayer dollars was going to be funneled into this. Because when you shine the light on these deals, and this is why it's so important that we don't allow this stuff to be done in the dark, which is why it's important not to allow it to be done in secret. You get to find out just how much we're handing over to these corporations. You remember their H2Q scheme and all of the stuff that we handed over to them, only to find out they were going to put those headquarters where they were going to put them anyway. But they got communities all over this country to hand them free data and free work and all kinds of stuff. It's about the transparency. It's about holding them accountable. It's about really being able to affect that kind of important change, and having the organization to do this. And this is where labor needs to be really tuned in, and where community groups and environmental groups and average everyday people, working people like you and me, need to finally get to the idea that someone else isn't going to do it for us. We're not going to get someone else to do it for us. We're going to have to do it for ourselves. I have friends who, the union will take care of it. No, you're the union. You are your union. It is not the union. It is your union. You do for yourself. And this is this moment, because what we're seeing on the other side, what we're seeing the right wing do, is this kind of direct action. Now, they're doing crazy stuff. You're seeing these religious people who are going, no, we're going to tear down that wall between church and state, and we're going to make this a theocratic country. We're going to bring Christian Sharia law in. We're going to make you believe what we believe. That's coming because they're doing this exact kind of organizing. They're doing this kind of direct action. And it's time average, everyday working people like you and me, it's time we stand up and we demand better. So when we come back, we're gonna talk about this, because this is an important one. this kind of organizing and understanding how to do it, and understanding the nuts and bolts and the why, I think is really important. So when we come back, we're going to have Terrence Bankston come and give us some thoughts. He's an environmental justice organizer with Clean Water Action. They were one of the groups who organized around stopping this and making some demands and holding them accountable. I think this is a big victory. So when we come back, we're going to talk about that. If you missed any of the program, podcast. Also, email rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break, right back. Stick around.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. Then the Teamsters pushed the law so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind. The union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case, and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
We've been farming the same farm for 3 generations, and it's just always been where I've wanted to be. Any farmer you talk to in Montana will tell you that the climate is definitely changing. The weather is way more extreme. We went from the wettest year we've ever had to this year with the worst drought we've had since the 80s. We've done everything we can to keep water going, but it got close to running out. Farmers can't afford the cost of climate change. Congress has to get this done.
Calling all builders, all welders and roofers, engineers and electricians, calling all brick masons and boilermakers, steel workers and steam fitters. Your country is calling you to rebuild America, to create a cleaner, safer, more prosperous future for all. Tackling climate change, this is the job of our lifetime. It's time to build back better. Let's get to work.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So again, I come back to this, and it's not often you take on the giant and you win, especially when you talk about small environmental groups and labor groups coming together, and not with the same kind of resources. I mean, look, Amazon is a behemoth with basically limitless resources. If they want, they get what they want usually. So the fact that you had a bunch of environmental and labor folks coming together and saying, you know what, we care about the wages that the workers make. We care about the environment. We care about the community, and those should be addressed. And to actually, affect that, I think is a pretty significant victory. And that's why I've asked Terrence Bankston to come talk with us. Terrence is the environmental justice organizer with Clean Water Action. Their website, cleanwateraction.org. Terrence, thanks for taking time for us.
Thank you, Rick, for having us and for your platform caring about this issue and helping to lift it up.
No, I think this is incredible. I think, we talk about worker power here all the time. We talk about, about the reality of, so often we're forced into the frame of, it's Democrats versus Republicans. It's the right versus the left, males against females. You know the divides. When the divide really is top down, it's the wealthy and the powerful versus all of the rest of us. And this is this kind of David and Goliath situation, I think.
Well, absolutely. I mean, when you talk about power, the New York and the New Jersey Port Authority is one of the most powerful bodies of appointed officials. I mean, when you go to their meetings, they guard them like they're the president. which shows how important they are. But when we go there and we find out that these commissioners or these board members are appointed by the governor of New Jersey and the governor of New York, yet many folks who come from the South Ward of Newark community, where the airport is in our backyard, or Elizabeth, or Jersey City, other areas, other towns that are affected by what goes on and not at the port. It's to see the disconnect between the community, the local leaders, and that board is astounding. And so being able to have local residents for many of us, going to that meeting for the first time and having our voice be heard was powerful. And then we also noticed the lack of diversity on the board as well. I think there were 2 folks of color, and one was present and one was not. And so when we talk about Black and brown communities, the only and the best people that can speak from us are those that are from those communities, those who are actually affected day to day. They are the best people to speak for us and to advocate for us. And so this was an example of us not so much chastising or beating up on the board, but saying our voice matters too. Not just the guys, the powerful guys up at the top, the rich guys, as you said earlier.
Yeah, no, this is, as I said, this is the kind of model moving forward that I think we need to take up. This is direct action democracy. This is participatory democracy. This is what we're supposed to be about. This is what I believe our country is supposed to be. So when I see it actually work, we got to celebrate this. You got to say, yeah, this is something that we want. Now, look, do I want Amazon to be able to build their facilities? Yeah, if they're good corporate partners and they're going to create good jobs and they're going to play by the rules and they're going to do all the things that we want and need them to do, sure. But they got to meet those demands first, I believe.
Yeah, and I think that, meeting demands, we have elected officials and we have many appointed officials, and some folks don't even know how these positions work, how our government works, right? But we talk about representation. So when Amazon wants to come, a major warehouse or any entity wants to come into our community, we want something called a community benefits agreement. That is something that comes prior to a press conference, prior to backdoor deals being made. Is saying, well, let's talk to folks who represent the interests of the community, who are there day to day doing the work that's about not just social justice, but overall quality of life, and have a conversation with them. And so when we talk about an Amazon adding more, Rick, I grew up in the South Ward with airplanes shaking my house. Imagine that. My friends in suburban towns and my colleagues in suburban towns, they don't understand that. They didn't have airplanes shaking their house growing up. And so when we talk about more airplanes in the air, I don't know if you rode throughout Newark Street, some folks, complain, residents and visitors, about our potholes. Well, if you're going to add more trucks, when we talk about the pollution, that's one piece, but we're going to add more trucks and more vehicles that's destroying our roads. What are you doing to help pave those roads instead of that falling on the taxpayer? So it was so many different levels that this impacted the community, not just from the labor piece, the environmental justice piece, but just accountability. I mean, only in a Newark could you just come here and say, I'm going to do what I want to do and not have a conversation with the community. And we got together 9 months ago, Rick, and we said no. And we stuck to it. For the most part, folks volunteered their time, meeting weekly, sometimes twice a week, just planning and going out into the field to canvass door to door was probably the most, I think, rewarding, because there were so many folks who said, you know what, I don't work at Amazon, but I know somebody who do, and I know what you're talking about. And they begin to have conversations with their neighbors and actually invite us into community meetings to talk more about this warehouse issue.
No, it's important. Now, on the airplane thing, I grew up in a housing project on the west side of Cleveland, right next to Cleveland Hopkins Airport. And we were right on the landing path, so I know exactly what you're talking about. At 3 o'clock in the morning, the windows are shaking. I know exactly what you're talking about. But, you said something that most people have never heard of, a community benefits agreement, this idea that if we're going to allow, corporate America to come in, that there has to be some benefit to the community. This is kind of a different bit of thinking for most people, because we just want the ribbon cutting, don't we? We just want, we're going to bring 1,000 jobs and we've got a ribbon cutting for the politician so we can get more votes to say we did something and have a check for tax breaks. That's what we're used to. We're not used to making demands.
No, I mean, today I had the opportunity to go with some EJ partners, and we met some other advocates down at the Department of Environmental Protection here for the state of New Jersey. And part of what we were addressing is the EJ rule, environmental justice rule. And so this is a law that will have policies being put forth. That was the reason for the hearings, that talks about expansion and the development of these type of warehouses and the standard that they must have for not just creating these spaces, but even expanding later on down the road. And what that means, and what we were forcing in this rule, and why we were down in today's, we want the Department of EP to ensure that there are matter-of-fact stipulations that hold warehouses and these type of entities accountable to the community. That when the community, when these projects are coming up, we don't want a sign posted 200 feet from the location. We want it 1,000 feet. We want them to text us the way they text us about COVID shots, to text us about these type of projects coming, so that the community can be aware of it, and then they can exercise their right in the process to speak on it. And what happens when we speak on it is every person who files an application for these type of warehouses has to answer any and every resident that that makes a point. And so I think that is, again, a process that many of us don't know about, but is very important. And when we are able to get these type of stipulations in place, what we are dealing with today, when we talk about a community benefits agreement, that comes before, again, the press conference. And we want labor groups like this coalition and environmental groups to be able to be invited to the table when the planning is going on, 2-3 years out, so that we can kind of end up on the right side of history together. Everything shouldn't be a fight. When you don't have a community benefits agreement, we're coming back begging for something that we should have had the first time, which is ultimately what led to this situation. If Amazon was willing to just have a conversation with the community, they really was just, refusing to. Yeah. It was absurd. And so we had to then go to the people who was in charge and put the pressure on them.
Because they're used to getting their way. They're used to pushing their way in and getting subsidized to do it. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're here with Terrence Bankston. He is the environmental justice organizer with Clean Water Action. Their website, cleanwateraction.org. We'll get links out on social media. You can check out their work. Also, check out the website, goodjobscleanairnewjersey.com. We'll get links out on how you can check that out as well. Now, this is one of those moments where you go, the organizing that you did, this is a lot of work. I mean, this is what you do. A lot of people don't have the time. Walk through some of the process that it took to get this, because not every community, thinks of community benefits agreements. And how many places have them? Do you know that this is something that's being pushed? Any thoughts?
The places that typically have them are suburban towns, and that's just because they're treated differently, right? And so this is a new, it's a new term that's been placed on the table in what we call EJ communities, right? Poor Black and Latino X communities, and part of what you were saying about the jobs, it's very true, and that's again what we were saying about the EJ rule. We cannot, those who are in power, you cannot allow jobs to be the carrot that dismisses our health. We have a right to clean air. We have a right to clean water, regardless of our zip code, regardless of our complexion. And so part of when you have to organize, when I first came on board 9 months ago, I wasn't working for Clean Water at the time. I have a 17-year history with them. They was the first group 17 years ago, right out of high school, where we had our first environmental justice training program right here in the South Ward. And I was one of those students, the first class many years ago, 17 years ago, actually. And so getting this, when I was brought in, it was because the labor side had come together, and this was the first time, and the environmental justice side had come together on this issue. And they wanted to ensure, when you have national groups coming into local issues, and they're merging in with the local groups, you want someone who's from the community that can be a liaison between the two to ensure that the issues on the labor side, which we can talk about a few of those, and the environmental justice side, both sides are heard, both sides get the attention. And so part of the organizing work was being able to have these two sides come together. We're talking about maybe 6-7 groups on one side, 6-7 groups on the other side, and ensure that everybody's voice mattered. And so that took hours and hours of meeting. We've knocked on thousands of doors. I can't even begin to tell you how many events that we've attended in the West Ward of Newark, in the South Water, Newark, and also in Elizabeth. And we did some foot trafficking also in Jersey City. And so it took, again, for 9 months, meeting week after week, every Monday committing to that. We also had some subcommittees. It was really an all hands on deck. I mean, I got to give a big shout out to Sarah, who's from Make the Road, New Jersey, who really was a great support and a leader in this regard to help bring us all together. And so it took sacrifice. We can't be willing to get something if we're not willing to give it up. So yes, it took many, many hours. So Sarah can also tell you that. A lot of sleepless nights, a lot of early mornings. And when we have to educate people, we didn't want to just put signs in people's hand, Rick. You know, we want to educate them so that they can feel not just inspired by the issue, but empowered to make the change themselves. And so that was just some of it. A lot of long hours, a lot of follow-up, a lot of one-on-one meetings. We met with Rob Menendez. We've met with Mayor Baraka. We met with Congressman Payne. We met with Senator Booker. And so it took a lot of, again, a lot of different moving pieces. But all of us, we was one band, one message. And we didn't have any one-off meetings. That's a rule of organizing. Never have one-off meetings. Stick to the script and stick with the team. And that's what we did. And that's why we were able to be really successful in what is a historical way, I like to say, and we definitely are celebrating that, but the work continues. So we're going back out to let them know where we are. And then we also want to look at the Line Gate warehouse that is coming up right next door to the Weekway Park. And when they talk about 65 more trucks coming to this Line Gate project, again, no community benefits agreement. And so the work of warehouses is a statewide issue, but we are not letting up in Newark. Amazon has been defeated, but we don't want another Amazon to pop up, right? And so we want to keep the pressure on and let our elected and appointed officials know that we are serious and we are committed and we're staying together.
And ultimately, you want good conditions for all around. Now, when I saw the stories break on this, it was the media take on this was it was the unions that torpedoed all this. Unionization efforts killed all this. So it was the big bad unions and those greedy workers. This was the frame, and this is always the frame. It's the greedy workers who they just want more. And what you're talking about is so much more than just a couple of bucks in your paycheck. It's about dignity. It's about respect. It's about community. It's about all of the things, as you point out, that the suburbs take for granted. Yes. That I think is important to explain and get people thinking about. It's not just about the dollars and cents.
You know, I think it's, it also can add the insult to the already injury that's there for it to be painted that way when 124% average, when you're at 124% average in terms of a turnover at your warehouses, it's not about greedy employees, it's about the greedy employer. And it's not about just as simple as labor folks torpedoing. You were overtly violating and disregarding labor laws. And it took the unions and the environmental justice side to stand up and say, we ain't just talking about clean air and water. We're talking about how people are treated and the living conditions that they're in. And so when we talk about the unsustainable work pace quotas that they want them to meet, when we talk about how they have to travel 15 minutes to go to the bathroom, but they're not really allowed to use it unless it's a break. And if they are, and if it's an emergency, they literally have to run and try to get back or they're penalized. When we talk about the high injury rates, those are not imaginary. When we talk about the high-tech monitoring and the frequent discipline actions that are taken without merit, those things are not imaginary. When we talk about the low rates of promotion for hourly employees that you have working for $20 an hour, and that's a significant amount of money for a certain demographic. However, that same demographics, when you tell them you have mandatory overtime without any 24-hour notice, when they have maybe a second job or when they maybe have kids they need to feed or get to school or a grandmother to take care of, but you're telling them mandatory overtime 8 hours or you're fired. How is that a conducive work environment that is that's not what would you call it? Really just disrespectful to people of color. I've had certain employees did describe it as slavery. I had one young lady share her testimony at one of our trainings, and she spoke She did not speak English at all, but the conviction of what she was saying, for those that understood no Spanish at all, you understood the conviction of her heart, and that what she had experienced was not make-believe. Being able to go to a supervisor because you were injured on the job and they can't understand what you're saying, and there's no one that speaks your language in sight. Imagine how frustrating that was for that young lady. And so these things are not about, it's not about greedy employees. I think it's about treating us with dignity. Again, this country has a history of treating Black folks and Latino folks any way they want, and we are living in an era where we are saying no more, and it's no more even in the environmental justice space, no more even in the labor space. This is not just about the Black Lives Matter movement and those type of other things that are going on in terms of social justice around this country. It's saying that we are even being treated. It's polluting. When we have an overburdened community that you put more of a burden on, you might as well put your knee on our neck. In other words, and so when they say that regardless of when we pass the N.J. Green Amendment, that's another point that's linked to this. When we pass that amendment, when we get that hearing here, it will be illegal to pollute our air, and our government will be forced, and schools will be forced, and businesses that come into our community will be forced to not just say we're green because it's popular, but they would have to dot those I's and cross those T's before they can open a door. And that's where we want to move, not just North 2, but places like Trenton and Camden throughout the state.
There you go. Terrence, congratulations on the win. Good stuff. I hope you more to come. Yes. This is, again, historic, to use your word. Again, I hope to see more of this across this country. What you've done, I hope, will be the template going across the country. I appreciate you taking some time for us, sharing this. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you, and definitely would like to come back on to keep you updated.
Outstanding. Good stuff, Terrence. Thanks so much. Terrence Bankston. He is the environmental justice organizer there with Clean Water Action. CleanWaterAction.org, the website. We'll get links out on social media. I can take a look at the stuff that they do. Going to take a quick break. Back with your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK. 1-866-416-7425. This is The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
It doesn't matter what kind of weather. It doesn't matter what time of day or night. When Mother Nature's done her worst, the only thing that matters to us is keeping the lights on for you. The hardworking women and men of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, dedicated to keeping the power on in communities all across the country. Because when bad weather strikes, we know what matters most. IBEW, the power professionals.
The world is watching as Vladimir Putin uses oil to fund his war in Ukraine. Tragically, we've seen this before. If we rely on foreign dictators and fossil fuels, this cycle will only continue. Starting now, let's decide who makes our energy. By investing in more clean energy right here in America, we can cut off the power of tyrants. Renewable, clean energy. That's real American energy independence.
Are you tired of think tank approved corporate news and commentary? Are you tired of CEOs telling you what to think, who to hate, and who to vote for? Well, welcome to the Rick Smith Show. We don't take orders from some boardroom, and we don't do focus groups or talking points. We don't work for them, and we never will. I'm Rick Smith, and I work for you. We are radio of, for, and by we the working people. Check out our program at thericksmithshow.com. This is a great story out of Ohio. This guy owns a couple of McDonald's. His name's Tony Fallu. Tony started working at McDonald's. This is his second job back in 1962, making 90 cents an hour. He became a manager. He eventually bought one. And then he bought another, and he bought another. He's 90 years old now. He owns a couple of them. When he had to close down for 3 months to rebuild, because every so often they have to remodel and rebuild, he paid all of his 90 employees all of their money all of their wages during the rebuild. And you go through the story and you go, why would this guy? He didn't have to do it. Didn't have to do it. Could have just said, you're off on your own. Go collect unemployment. You're tough on you. And you go, this is the change. Because this is what this is what businesses used to do in the old days. This is what a 90-year-old guy remembers from the 1960s. This is how business used to run. Until we got smart, until we went and got educated. We treated people decent. We treated communities better. And I was talking with someone today who's saying, look, it used to be in the old days, the boss of the small business, he'd take the guys on Friday to the bar. He'd buy them drinks, or he'd buy them dinner, lunch on Fridays, whatever. He was part of it. We've corporatized so much. It's all about the self. It's all about the individual. It's all about me. It's all about the money. It's all about Wall Street. So when I see this National Bureau of Economic Research study that was just published, that says that they went and they looked at voter registration data from 3,700 executives at the S&P 1500. And what they found that, the executive boardrooms are getting much more Republican. 68%, they said, in 2020 were Republicans. And I'm going, wow, that seems kind of low. Now, it is down from its high in 2016, which was 75% of executives were Republicans. Because ultimately, here's the reality. Punchline, Republicans hate working people. That's the reality. Their policies are destructive to working people and have been for a very long time. The whole no rights at work agenda, the attack on workers' compensation, the attack on unemployment, the attack on child labor laws, the attack on minimum wage. You go down the list of all the things Republicans have been fighting against, all bad for working families. Attacks on health care, on education, and you name it. And I find it just amazing that we don't know. So when you see this story about this guy who owns a McDonald's in Mayfield Heights, Ohio, paying his employees, you go, that is so wonderful. Oh, he's such a good Samaritan. He's such a good guy. That used to be the culture. Now he's this example of stunning generosity. Whereas this is what it used to be. And it can be again if we demand. And this is what I keep coming back to, this kind of organizing that our grandparents' generation did. These kind of demands. Because there are no benevolent dictators. I'm sorry, there aren't. And the ones that are, maybe there's one. And maybe he owns a McDonald's in Mayfield Heights. And maybe it's because he's a 90-year-old guy who remembers a better time. But he is very much the exception. This is why workers need to organize. This is why we need worker power, which is why I think stories like the one Terrence told, so incredibly important. Love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. You miss any portion of the program, podcast, wherever you get yours, you'll find ours.
There is a demonic portal, a satanic portal above the White House that appeared shortly after the election of Biden.
Next Congress, we will be investigating the January 6th committee. And
I'll
leave you with that.
Because you are a witch, you are a rebellious Jezebel with your little lazy spirit.
Women can't even get along with each other. They can't even figure out their friendships. They're not going to figure out the country.
If a woman isn't as strong, or if she's a bitch or whatever she's doing, it's because her husband isn't leading her properly.
I hear a lot of wah, 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 not a lot of churning butter.
And we are the Christian Taliban. And we will not stop until The Handmaid's Tale is a reality. And even worse than that.
That is precisely what we intend to do. is to impose Christian laws on everyone in the United States of America.
They'll make you a government dependent and you'll vote for Democrats for the freebies for the rest of your lives.
The last word of the anthem, last word, is brave. And that always struck me as a mistake.
Did he commit suicide? Was he suicided? We have no idea.
Biden, where's your Build Back Better, motherfucker? Out of here.
I declare this July 4th, 2022, to be a declaration of independence against the alien force on this planet today, waging war against humans and our biology and our very future, that is attempting to exterminate the majority of us and force the minority that's left to merge with AI computers and become cyborg slaves of Satan.
Some whack job can say this stuff and get away with it?
Anyway, if you missed any of today's program, thericksmithshow.com. That's where you go to get the podcast. The Rick Smith Show app on the smartphone. Take the program on the go wherever you go. And as always, you can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I do answer all emails, personally, even the dumb ones, and I've gotten some really dumb ones today. You know who you are, and you got dumb responses back, because that will happen too. But you can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Thanks so much for being here. We will see you back here next time. And again, big hearing tomorrow. Off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Boston will be at the American Federation of Teachers Convention, bringing you that.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.